figuring out how we can curate some stories of friends of ours who have done extremely well in life, and how do we, how can we present some of those stories to a larger audience? Okay. And one of the things that we wanted to do was that we said everybody is aware, if you look at all the available literature today, a lot of the literature is about people who have already reached a certain stage and they're talking about what they're doing now. But the journey is something that is very interesting for us. So we said, can we talk to Madhukar and to you, Vineet? Because having followed your journey for some time and, not been in touch in the last maybe 10, 15 years, and I'm guilty of that. But it would be interesting to, find out, Madhukar, where did it start? What were the challenges that you had at the beginning of the journey? And likewise, Vineet, coming in and then, scaling the business, taking it to a new level. What were the challenges that you faced? So we can, we'll try and capture it.
The best place to begin is the beginning.
That's right.
And well, I graduated way back in 71 as an electrical engineer. And those days were pretty bad as far as getting employment. So there was a lot of issues on that. And many people were thinking of migrating to the US. I somehow thought that I will not migrate to India. I mean abroad. And I will be here only in India. So with great difficulty, after 6 months, I got my first job at a salary of about 250 rupees, posted in some remote area like Bardoli sugar factory, where I had to work as a site engineer. And took a lot of opportunity to learn things over there, because being a fresh graduate, as you know, in our colleges, we hardly learn what is practical. And that's how I spent a lot, about 2-3 years in the field of contracting. And then I got a opportunity to join Larsen & Toubro. So after 3.5 years, in 94, I joined, 74, I think it was 74, yeah. 74, I joined Larsen & Toubro as a sales engineer. And they sent me for a training at the factory at Powai. And by that time, I knew and I'd come to understand one thing, that my knowledge level is very low as far as the technicalities are concerned, as far as the basic principles of engineering are concerned. So I took it upon myself to re-educate myself while in the training, and picked up a lot of things of good practices, how a company works, etc. And after that, I joined as a sales engineer at Ahmedabad for the Gujarat region, for supplying for sales of switchboards, that is switchgear division, where you make custom built panel boards and MCCs and PCCs. So I worked under a boss who was there for a number of years. And during that period also, I learned a lot on marketing, how to work with IPCL, GSFC, and all these big companies, how you sell with them. And we had a great guy in a branch office in Baroda who was handling all the IPCL accounts and all those things. And he was a master cracker with knowing how to handle people. So learned a couple of things from him also. And then in 76, while having a talk with my boss, I said, he suggested, I suggested, let's do something, because we found that Larsen & Toubro and Siemens were the only companies which are selling quality products. And we being in L&T, we thought that let's do something which gives quality products to the customers. So be the second line of business. There were a lot of other panel builders, but they were basically traders and fabricators who would do those things. So I decided that, so both of us decided that let's start this business of manufacturing. Now, we didn't have funds. My father was just retired, so he didn't. I did not want to borrow any money from my father. And then we thought of getting another financial partner. So the financial partner we got was one of the stockists of Larsen & Toubro, who offered that I will be a partner in the company and also supply Larsen & Toubro at credit, other things and all. So no banking financing is required. We didn't realize that we are going into a big ditch, but then it was a learning and we started that way. So even that 4,000 rupees capital that we had to give it to form the company, that financer paid. And that's how we started our business. And the day we left that job, there were people, because of my senior guy, my partner, my boss, who was about 8-9 years elder to me. He had very good relationship with people. So the day he left, he got a big order of about 50 lakhs or something like that. Not 50 lakhs, I think 1 lakh or something like that. Those guys came in and gave a parting gift from L&T. And that's how we started. And initially, of course, we hired a small place, and at times when there was urgency, the wiremen couldn't handle it. So we did the work ourselves by wiring, etc. And I think that my experience in the contracting world gave me a lot of help at that time. So that's how we started the work. And I think we started picking up orders slowly, by looking at quality. We entered doing some work for places like IPCL, GSFC. Then we had that other major company, Gujarat Alkalis and all those things. It was a good journey. But we started, and we were working with a lot of consultants like Uday and Power Gas at that time and things like that. But slowly, I started realizing that this business of making custom-built panel builders, buying material from somewhere, and it's not going to take us very far off. And that's how we kept on trying new things. We started going into contracting. We started manufacturing some other items, but we couldn't get around there. That's when we started realizing that let's think of the future. And companies like GSFC, IPCL, they used to have more of controllers, what is called as the DCS. And during those periods, I learned something which is called as the PLCs also. So we said, let us try to get hold of some product or start manufacturing that product in collaboration. And I was the youngest, so I was told that you go ahead and explore. So I went to Department of Electronics that time. That time electronics was banned. Even computers were not allowed. I'm talking of way back in 84 or something, 84 or something. I went to Delhi. I used to meet people over there. But bottom line was that it was very difficult to get any electronic imports or anything, electronic manufacturing licenses and things like that. So during one of those visits with the Department of Electronics, one guy told me that if you're looking for PLCs, that Allen Bradley has already entered India and they have an office in Delhi. Why don't you go and meet them? And probably you'll be able to find some solution with that. So they gave me the name and number of the MD, and I went and met him. When I met him, he gave me a VIP treatment because I was the first guy as an integrator, someone who would like to work with them. And he showed me around all the things. They explained the philosophy of what an integrator is concerned, what is an integrator, and how their products can be used in integration of solutions. So it was, he explained this, and he says, I'll send my regional manager from Bombay to come and meet you, and we can take it further. So that's how I became their first system integrator in India. And when I reached Ahmedabad, the third day or fourth day, their branch manager came to my office. And then he explained to me and things like that. Now, incidentally, in my college days, industrial automation was my subject. And I always enjoyed that subject compared to anything else. So I could pick it up pretty fast. And we started doing, the first job was with Reliance for managing the flow of some water tanks and things like that. And that the regional manager itself got the job for us. And we did the job. And I did my personal programming myself. I took my training, used, and manuals were very good. And I burnt a lot of, say, candles to learn what was the programming and how it is done and how a system was integrated. And Allen Bradley manuals were top of the class. They taught you everything. Those days, there were no CDs, there were no videos, nothing. So we could get, I mean, I learned a lot over there and did a lot of projects over there. Slowly by slowly, I picked up. And the first 3 years or 2 years or so, I did programming myself. And I did nice jobs with IPCL, Crypco, just small jobs, revamped jobs, what is called, because that time there were no companies who were willing to do a new project on it. So it was always a person had a problem and I would give them a solution by using the PLC. So we did some excellent jobs with IPCL and at Crypco Fertilizer also, and different applications. So that got us ahead as far as technology was concerned. Margins, you could claim whatever you want at that time. I mean, 1 rupee worth of thing, you can claim 100 rupees, no one will bother you as long as you give a solution, because there was no one to do it. Large companies wouldn't do it. And therefore, you were able to do such projects. Anyway, that era we went through and built up a reputation of being Pima Controls and being a sort of synonymous with Allen Bradley. Allen Bradley was a world-known name, 100-year-old company. And we got the synonymity because everyone would say, what is it? Because I was the only integrator of Allen Bradley in India. So we did that. And then slowly by slowly, other integrators were also asked to join in. And then there was a sort of a competition and things like that. Now, 97 is the time when Rockwell took over. 84, Rockwell took over in USA, Allen Bradley as a company. And they entered into India around about 86, 87. And not 86, 87. That was 98 they started coming in. Yeah, 98 they came into India and they started building up a system which they did in USA. Now the USA marketing philosophy of theirs was that you have a network of distributors, and the distributor would give the material to the integrator and support them in various ways. That policy still today is being followed. And they wanted to pick up distributors here in India. And after a lot of, all the integrators wanted to become a distributor because that they were giving a geographical territory to handle of Gujarat. And after a lot of pitching and you know what is to be done and try to work out why you're better than the other guy and things like that. Because we didn't have the funds which some of the big companies had. So overall, we found that, yes, I was able to impress upon people that we are the right choice. And fortunately, we were appointed as a distributor in 97 for Allen Bradley for the state of Gujarat. And that was a very momentous thing for us. When we became a distributor, that gave us a lot of responsibility. But that was only on paper. It took a couple of years for other people to accept us as a distributor. And as we went along, we learned a lot of things that the other guy's acceptability, how we can add value to the integrator and things like that. But it was a rough period where we went through.
Before you continue, I would just like to add something. So this was a phase when I entered business, when this entire journey of, when they were scouting to appoint. So they were interviewing a lot of integrators and a lot of even outside dealers and distributors and some MNC companies. So they were interviewing a lot of people. Now, this is the time when I entered business, just finishing, when I was in final year college, or I just finished my college. And this was something that happened over a period of 1 year. But what we learned in this, what today youngsters, when they're starting a startup and they're making business plans and they're making marketing plans, and so this is something that we did for the first time, and it was new, of course, for me. I was fresh out of college. It was, to some extent, it was new for my dad also, because till that time we never needed to make a business plan except for a chartered accountant making a few spreadsheets to take a bank loan. So that gave us a lot of exposure in doing a market segmentation, understanding what marketing plan we are going to make, how we're going to get the numbers, what's the bottom line we're going to target, what are going to be our 5-year plans. So this is something that was for the first time learned by us, and these are learnings that has helped us to the rest of our 2 decades of journey in growing our company. Sorry, please continue.
Yeah, thanks, Vinny, for putting in that. I would have missed that probably. So anyway, this is the distributor's journey that we started, and slowly by slowly things started getting settled. And now, to live up to the expectations of Rockwell, we had to know how a distributor in USA works. So they had training programs for us, and I attended quite a few of them. I think Vineet also joined me into various places. They gave us booklets of what is the things that a distributor should look after when he's becoming a distributor, like number of tons of logistics and various formulas that your company must be having as far as the inventory control is concerned and things like that. So they gave us some booklets, they gave us some information and all those things. And we took it up very, very seriously. And we said that we must be able to gather the information that is required in our system. And I was purely a systems man. I mean, I really want to be very systematic about whatever I do. So what we did is we picked up all the formulas, came back here, sat with a chartered accountant. How do we capture this information? And though we didn't have an accounting accounting system, of course, the normal regular businesses accountings you have, but inventory control was not one of the things. That's the time when I understood what was my inventory requirements and the information that I required from there. And my wife, Veena, she was a program, she used to do programming for a couple of companies in DBase. So she used to do a lot of those programming. So I said, come on, now you come over here and let's try to make up software. So we actually designed the software in a manner by which right from purchase, how we would get the information and all the basic parameters that are required for a good distributor is what we built up into that and made reports. So that inventory program, and we kept on upgrading that program right up to, I think, till we got into this ERP system with Microsoft. So that program helped us steadily and give all the information that we needed over there. So that was one thing which we built up in our systems, and to change over to Microsoft was easy because we had a lot of systems in place. Even as far as programming is concerned, documentation is concerned, we always had a systematic thing wherein you're not dependent on one person and you have an integrated information. Today, of course, we have a complete ERP system which gives us all the information that is required. And in fact, we are directly linked up with Rockwell with the inventory control and things like that. So that was growing as far as that is concerned, building up the infrastructure for being a good distributor. But now being a distributor, one of the important policies was with working with the system integrators who would be doing process job independently. They would be able to take up jobs. And our focus as far as that was concerned, that we should generally work with the OEM customers. OEM is original equipment manufacturers. And we worked and built up the system, work at low margins, low margins and high volume. So we used to work with them and we built up a lot of those customers, and we did first time jobs for them in modernizing the equipment for a number of years. And we have a lot of good stories with us where we were able to give good solutions to people, support afterwards, upgradation to as the products keep on changing. So there are a couple of projects which I think I would like to mention here. One was working with a plastic extrusion manufacturer. He was making a mixer. And he took up a job in Kuwait wherein he had to give an entire sort of a system, which right from mixing to extrusion is what he was to give and all thing. And he worked with us. I knew him and he had faith in me. So he also was new. And we built up the system and it was successfully executed in Kuwait. So that gave us a big confidence that, okay, we can do big jobs and we can do real good integrated job with machinery manufacturers. So that was the same. And the second customer whom we worked very strongly with was Elecon Engineering. Elecon Engineering was, they started getting tenders where they wanted a lot of automation to be done in their systems. Like you have stackers, reclaimers, you have various different things. So we worked with them. And first we built up the one machine. And similarly, we had a lot of machineries that we modernized. And I would say we were the only automation partners of theirs. And we automated a whole lot of machineries which a lot of people could not really handle. And we were successful in many places. And I think our business with Elecon was a game changer for us. Because that's where, because of our knowledge, because of their faith in us, we got good margins and we were able to grow in a very big way, build up our finances, build up our reputation as a supplier to real great automated machines, things like that. And I think that's where we did a great job and we grew up to quite an extent. I think Vineet might want to add something on this.
Yeah, so this was these were some of our big customers that gave us a lot of impedance. They gave us a visibility in the industry as a leader, and we were envy to most of our competitors. As you know, we had some of the big ticket customers, and we were doing all the prestigious jobs. And that's when a lot of other vendors used to come to us, requesting us to represent them and take them to the market. So it gave us a lot of prominent position, especially in Western India and more so within Gujarat. And that leadership position continues till date. And now over the last 10 years, we have grown. I remember the first time we hired a finance manager. We used to have a big debate, because prior to that, engineering, we started employing people, but dad was a manager and I used to be his assistant. And that's how we used to run our organization. And I remember the first time we hired a finance manager so the accountants would report to him. Or when we hired an operations manager, where some of the purchase and stores guys would report to him. Now, these were big decisions. And I remember dad and I having arguments and even fights around it. Dad used to tell me at times that you don't want to work and why you want to hire these, you have good systems, you can go ahead and, just look after this. You are wasting your money hiring a manager. So these are the kind of debates that we used to have, first generation to second. And but slowly by slowly we started filling in key position. And to top it off, just last year we hired a CEO, which was all new feelings for us because these are the things that we never did before. So that's how from a small organization we are now growing into a larger organization which is professionally run, and you have people empowered to take key decisions and run the business.
I think one thing I'd like to add here, when Vineet joined me in 97, after graduating over there, I think I believed in one thing which at that time when he was there is that I advised Vineet also that when you join the company, you don't join the company as the son of the owner. You have to join the company building up your strengths and the employees gaining respect for you rather than you just coming as a big boss in them. So even if I come in the car to the office, you are not going to come with me. You come at your own time. You work it over there. You come on a motorbike. You work with them as a simple man, as an engineer, and build their confidence and faith. And I'm glad to say that he did that extremely well. He did it very well in the sense that they were all his seniors. I had about 3 or 4 engineers who were seniors, and they were from their own college. And they loved to work with him. Otherwise, the seniors would go away if the owner's son would want to come and work it here. And this being an engineering field required experienced engineers also. So I think when one taking is one thing which people should realize is that when they transition from one generation to the other, the younger generation must learn to respect the staff which is there, gain their confidence, and work with them very well, so that slowly by slowly he can move around over there. So when he becomes the boss, he is respected by all, not only by his colleagues, but by his vendors, by his customers, by his principals, whoever we are working with. So I think he did that in a very nice way. And that helps us in transiting, because we have a lot of distributors. I know of distributors of Rockwell whose sons just came into the business and started ordering around over there. And they couldn't transition well. So I think transition and adopting the younger generation into the family business is a very, very critical aspect.
So I would add here that if you look at across the country, most technical organizations, they have a lot of problem succeeding their business to the next generation, and the next generation usually falters. We see that in the automation business where we are there. Even apart from that, in several other technical fields as well. Because unless you are manufacturing in a technology field, it's usually a technocrat who starts a business leaving a job, and somewhere the next generation is more of a businessman than a technocrat, and that does not transit well, and most businesses falter there, at least in our industry.
In the next generation are coming in more as businessmen, not really understanding the intricacies of the business and how to handle it. And more importantly, also willingness to bring in professionalism in some sense, and having some kind of a separation business between business ownership and the operations of the work. Now, this is something that I want you to cover a little more, because many a times this is a big challenge that, as the businesses grow, the owners actually struggle. How do I bring in a certain degree of segregation between the two, and how do I empower the team to really take next level?
So my dad always, had empowered the people, whether it was just an engineer working on the field, and we started off during days where there was no WhatsApp, or even telephone calls were a nightmare. You could only book calls in the evening. Even if you are between Baroda and Ahmedabad, or Surat and Ahmedabad, you could only book STD calls at night. Otherwise, when you are working at site inside the factory, there used to be absolutely no communication. So you're very much on your own, and this is where you would execute projects. Uh, so people were always empowered to take a decision. Obviously, you do a fair amount of homework, but then people are empowered to take decisions, and this continued even within our own organization. So whether it was a salesperson, so when we hired our first few salespeople who would go in negotiations, they were always, with all transparency, given information on our costing, our methodology of how we are building a system, and going and negotiating with customers. If it were our operations people, how do they put out the purchase order, how do they store the material? The overall philosophy was given by him, but then people were empowered to do the micromanagement of what needs to be done. So that was always there. However, at some stage, we realized that we need middle level managers. And when we started hiring those middle level managers, it started first with finance, then we had sales, operations. Technically, we needed a middle level managers who could manage some of the engineers working in the field and stuff. And like I said, when I came in, though I came with a technical background, I didn't have the level of expertise technically the way my dad had. I did work hands-on on a few projects, but it still did not substitute the vast experience that he had, because he had worked hands-on for like a couple of decades compared to me. So we got in all these people who were with us for a fairly long time, and many times some of these guys, when they moved out, it disrupted our business, because these were people who joined fresh with us, they grew with us, but then were picked up with from by larger companies, and that disrupted our business in a big way, because we were not ready to bring in middle level managers from outside. uh, so that because sometimes it was a cost, sometimes we were worried whether they would work. So recruitment also became a problem for us. It was embarrassing for me as a son of the owner to call up people and solicit them to work for us. And it was not just one or two calls that could make a difference. We had to do multiple calls so that people come to our company to work. We used to give out job ads in newspapers, and that time that was the only medium of mass communication to let people know there was a job opening. And at times nobody would show up for those interviews, and that's when we realized that we need an HR manager. So we hired an HR manager who would come and do these. So everything grew organically. It wasn't as if we had a strategy. We build a dream organization on paper, the way startups do today, and you hire chief executive officer, you hire a sales vice president, and you go to market and do it. So everything happened in a very organic manner. Even in my own organization, like to evolve from a manager to a director, after like working for a decade or so, one day I had to go to my dad and say, you know what, dad, making new business cards, and I think it's high time I'm promoted to be a director in this company rather than just be a manager. So do I have your permission if I print director on my business card and change my signatures on the letterhead, if that's okay with you? So that's how things just happen, and we grew from one generation to another.
I want to ask one more thing. You're extremely active on LinkedIn. I keep seeing you post a lot about your company, commenting a lot about what is happening in your industry. And this is one where a lot of SMEs and MSMEs are not really, taking advantage. Many a times they are the, unseen and heroes of our industry. How did you find your journey on social media and especially LinkedIn? What has been your experience on that?
That I think Roundtable has helped me a lot. My journey as a young engineer who joined my business was very similar to when I joined as a newbie tabler in ART 40. And the way I've grown in Roundtable, whether as a facilitator, Ram has seen me right from my formative years, my capability to converse, and how you do public speaking, and how you go on addressing, and these are all parallelly helped me in my business, where I've grown as an individual. So whenever I got an opportunity to speak at forums, whenever I got opportunities to give interviews, or when somebody reached out to me to write something on a particular subject matter which went into an industry, and now of course internet, blogging, LinkedIn has given us a lot of opportunity. And the benefits I have seen, how people have worked in Roundtable, whether it is developing a website, whether it is using various social media platforms to communicate. I have tried to use all their learnings, and today I am able to replicate. I'm saying, in fact, I'm just replicating what I learned there to do something that I'm for my business. Even the networking, participating in various forums are all things that I have learned in Roundtable, and I'm just trying to reuse some of those skill sets in different platforms. So whether it is me talking about my business on these social media platforms or participating in, say, Roundtable, 41ers. I'm part of BNI, and I'm not, sorry, not BNI, but I'm part of TIE. And, my participation in all these forums is everything that I have learned from Roundtable. So I owe it to that organization.
I think I would also like to tell you one thing. That's the generation gap. Like what a lot of things which Vineet has mentioned. When you take into a lot of step forward, see, we have earned money the hard way. And therefore, even hiring out a manager or an engineer or going and investing into various advertising or things like that, normally we, as an older generation, think 10 times before that. Okay, am I spending the money or I'm wasting the money? So that transition, I think, helped us a lot between Vineet's views and my views. I would be a restrictive fellow and he would be a one who would look into that. So there have been a lot of dialogues, and I think he has taken it the right direction, that we have invested into a lot of these things as far as running the company professionally and getting it around over there. So, and these all things are whatever he's doing right now is, I think, projecting our company in a really different way than what we used to do over there. Of course, saying that Roundtable has helped him, I would agree that he has helped him. In fact, it has helped me also a lot because I got a lot of exposure also to various things. But you see, he was on this side. I'd like to now tell you about this, that I have been quite futuristic in my thinking about it. Like we thought in '84 that we must get into automation business, and we worked hard for it because automation was unknown in '86, '87. There was hardly anyone doing it over there. So we invested in that and studied into it and got into those things. So that helped us a lot. But we've been in our company also, technically, we've been futuristic in the sense that in '98, I became, because of Rockwell, I became a partner with a company called ProSoft in USA. And their job was communicating between different platforms or protocols which are there, which today is a common language. But at that time, what they used to prepare us is that if you have in a factory, you have a product of Siemens, or you have a product of Allen Bradley, or you have Schneider, you can communicate and get the data together and work it out over there. Those days, it was not important. Today, it is life. And I'm talking of '98 when we started, and we've done a couple of projects wherein we used to integrate that data with us over there. And we have done some excellent projects as far as that is concerned, communicating data from one place to the other of different protocols. Similarly, we did somewhere around 2004 introduction, because see, whatever Allen Bradley gave us was something they gave us, and we worked onto that. But we had to think of future. So we got into something called vision technology. Vision is something which a camera picks it up the image, analyzes the data, and what you want to reject, you reject. What you want to keep it over there. And we were so futuristic that it was great difficulty in getting a job and then having people to do that work over there. So if you yourself have to do the work, it is what is possible, but you cannot grow that way. So, but we did some excellent projects like, but we found that that is not a viable project. It's too early in a serial. Today, you will find that everything works on vision. You have the pharmaceutical sector, everything. A camera pictures it, analyze it, artificial intelligence, whatever you have, and it gives you this thing. So then we left off the vision technologies. But in our company, whatever we have done, we've always thought of the future. 5 years hence, what do you do? Today, we are working desperately on IIoT and various other applications, which Vineet can tell you about. But that's where the company, if a company has to grow, it has to think of the future.
People who are like you, okay, in the same situation. How difficult was it to give up and say, Vineet, here's the ball, now run with it?
Not very difficult. In fact, I had planned it out. And as Vineet told you, I have always believed in delegating powers to people. So my staff, I used to delegate powers to them to do it. It does not matter if they make mistakes, because once they make mistakes, they're going to learn from it. And as far as Vineet is concerned, it was not difficult for me to hand over things to him. But yes, I do remember a time when he had joined us, and it was the early stages of his joining me. I used to have a habit of telling him that technically you do this, or I would say, okay, this is the right way of doing it, and this is the way we do it. One fine day, he tells me, Dad, I am now 30 years old. I've been in the company for 6, 7 years. And what the hell, every day you're telling me this, don't do this and don't do that. So that was the day when I learned that, yes, I must give opportunity to people to do. I mean, we need to do and make mistakes and do that over there. So that was one of the things when his comment taught me something, that I should not be imposing my ideas on him, and he should be a free bird to do things like that. So that was one learning which we had. But down the line, I have always given him, and I think before I actually retired, I mean, not going to the office and all that, that was just after COVID. But before that also, about 5, 7 years before that also, he was more or less handling all the business. And one more thing I'll tell you, this Rockwell Automation with whom we are working, the engineers over there were all young people. And I was too senior for them. So they would not open up to me. Whereas he could open up with them very easily and interact with them over there. So that's another learning which people should realize, that after some time, you cannot go down to the level of the juniors with your customers or with your principals. So you have to let the younger generation do it over there. And I think even today, gracefully, when I left the business, I mean, I have no qualms about it. And I'm very happy that my children are doing much better than what I can do.
At what point of time did Vineet the professional, at which is that point in time when you said, this is a first-class professional? Incidentally, he is my son. This is a struggle that most fathers are having right now with their son, and most sons are having a struggle with their father. Okay, so this would be, I mean, you guys are a fantastic example. So, question to
Ram, I don't think so. This is a sort of a switch on and switch off situation. It is the confidence level comes into a father, and probably the son also gets the confidence that, yes, I'm doing the right thing. So it's a slow progression which you try to see, that whether this fellow will be able to succeed in this business and become a good professional, he'll be able to handle these things properly. So the confidence of the father comes in from that point of view. One of the things which I remember, and when we became the distributor in 97, in 98, and I had never gone abroad. The only place I had gone abroad was in 83 to Hong Kong, that also on Rockwell trip to this thing. But my family was all in USA.
Round table trip, I think.
Yeah, there's a round table trip at Hong Kong in 83 for WOCO.
Ah, okay.
So I had never been abroad, and all my family members in the USA. So in 98, I decided that let me make a trip to US and meet my family and all that there. So when I decided, I told my principals, Rockwell, that I'm going to USA, I'll be out for, and those days it used to be like this, that you're spending so much of money to travel, so you might as well stay there for a longer period. So I planned a 2 months period to go there. And when I told my principals, Alan Bradley, that I'm doing this thing, they said, nothing do, you can't go, but 2 months, how will you handle the business? And you're going all the way to USA, and then how will you run business? And those days you didn't have mobiles like you have today. So you had emails those times now that became quite prominent. So, but I was adamant that I must go. And I suppose Vineet and the staff and the organization will take care of it. They were not very happy. But of course, they couldn't dictate to me that you don't go. And so I did go. And we had a manager who used to work with us from Rockwell. After 2 months, and of course, I was in touch with them, good information, whatever was required, I could give them and all that on the email. When I returned after 2 months, the same guys told me that Madhukar, you could have stayed a little longer because Vineet is handling it very well. So that's the time when I was feeling so proud that yes, my son has been able to do that thing. And also gave me a fear that I will become redundant. No, but seriously talking, that's the period when it gave you the confidence. Yeah, this guy would be able to take on things well. First he did was build up confidence to the staff and the people. Then he built up this sort of relationship slowly by slowly when I started handing over more and more things. And first thing, he was interacting with the Rockwell people because he could handle with them at a very low level, not manipulate, but you need to work with the multinationals properly because you have a lot of internal politics also going on over there. So he was able to manage all those things. So it's a transition that you will see, progression that you will see right throughout, how the child is maturing into the whole game. And that's where you have no worries about it. Okay, he will take a proper decision and do it over there, things like that. So I suppose that answers your question of how it.
Interesting. Vineet?
So I think, again, I would attribute a lot of my transition in my own self-confidence with the confidence that I earned in Roundtable. So when I became the area chairman, the kind of, interpersonal engagements that I was doing with the other table chairmen in projects, that kind of gave me the confidence that if I can lead a set of people here, why do I need to have some sort of an insecurity in leading an organization, which is our own family. So I used to always have this, insecurity that I need my dad to depend on. I need to ask him this. But as I kept evolving here, I started developing my confidence as an individual. And the respect I started earning externally gave me that confidence to run the organization internally. However, this question has not come up, but let me share with you that running an organization technically, professionally is not a big issue. The challenges come financially. So as a young person, when you are in an organization and you start off, when you are in college, you are used to taking pocket money from your father. Uh, when you start getting into the organization, you are a fresh engineer, it still comes in as a pocket money only. Unlike when you are doing a job externally where you negotiate your salary with your organization, I cannot go and ever negotiate my salary. And I'm sure, and I know this for a fact, that this is the core of the issue in most family organization. It's the financial understanding and the financial discipline between brothers, between the father and the son. So even if I wanted to go attend an AGM, or if I wanted to take a holiday with some of my friends, I need to go and ask my father. And I used to really hesitate, right? Like any young boy, that, can I get a 50,000 rupees, or can I get 20,000 rupees so that I can take a holiday and go traveling there? So when I was in my 20s, that was okay because I was still young. But when you get into your 30s and when you are approaching your 40s, and if you still have to do that, that's a problem. And I must respect my dad for that, that we had some very clear systems put in place in our organization as to how to withdraw money, how to budget for the entire year. When you get married, what are your annual expenses? So we had a charter of some of those things around us. Even when my younger brother joined my business, our business, we had similar set of rules as to how to differentiate personal expenses from business expenses. If I'm traveling for business, it's a business expenses. If I'm traveling for some personal outing, it's the personal expense. So all those charter rules of our family and our business really helped us also to take a lot of independent decisions, which otherwise this kind of money matters tie you to the hip and does not give you the freedom to take any independent decisions. And this, I think, has also helped us in transition and keeping a lot of us together and not creating any kind of rift within the family. So as we have grown, our children have grown, as we have aged, the salary that we should draw from our business, the increments that we should take, we have a very pragmatic discussion over these kind of issues. And we have always taken a judicious call rather than an arbitrary call saying that, okay, I need money. Sometimes I withdraw, sometimes dad withdraws, sometimes my brother withdraws. No, we have a very disciplined way of working in our organization. And I think this has been this is very different from what I see in several other family organizations.
This is a huge friction point. And whenever one of the things that I'm doing off late is also to try and get families to work together, and saying, look, don't get into this split mentality, don't get into this breakup mentality, don't make that mistake. Even if you have to do it in such an amicable way that, you're still one particular unit. And believe me, Vineet, when I'm saying this, one of the biggest challenges is the history. Remember, you went to US, remember you went to Europe, remember you bought that diamond necklace, you remember you bought that car, remember. And I'm saying, God, how are we going to resolve all this crap? Yeah. And we still have to look for the future that you brought this up. Fantastic, great insight. That from the beginning, if you have that discipline. Yeah, Madhukar, go ahead.
I'll just tell you this, you mentioning this thing, that when we started as partners, we were 3 partners. And we all had this thing, and the age gap was also different. So there was a lot of issues on this, but we had a norm over there that time. Okay, we will do whatever if we got to do, like in most businesses, that whatever we do, we'll do it together. I remember the first time we had to buy a car in that company. So we wanted to buy the company, 3 partners. Now we decided which cars to buy, how much of money which is there. So the first car was Maruti, and the one that level which is there. So different people want different things, and how to manage that thing is a big issue which any organization comes in. Of course, we were partners, but the family is the same thing which is there over there.
The beauty for me is that having known you both for so many years now, from 1987 when I met Madhukar for the first time, till date, I really, really admire your journey. Fantastic.
So in fact, there was a time where I could, I had the confidence to go in front of a customer and give him a freebie for 50,000 rupees without asking my dad. But if I wanted to spend 25,000 rupees, I would never, on a personal front, I would not do it on my own, but I would always go and ask him or take his endorsement. He probably didn't want me to go and ask him per se, but as a son, I would need his endorsement before I sign off or I withdraw some money because the cashier as a family business SME used to always be there of the company. So you had to pick up money from the company account. And all this over a period of time, we have resolved and we have changed a lot of stuff. But that used to be historic. So withdrawing that 25,000 rupees for personal use was a far bigger emotional burden than giving a 50,000 rupees freebie to a customer or a negotiation with a supplier.
So Vineet, what age did you and your brother go to the business?
So I joined my business immediately after graduation. So I finished my graduation engineering in '97, and even in my holidays or my free time while I was a student, engineering student, I used to come to work. So I kind of just joined business as a de facto thing. But my brother took time off. So he did his masters. He went to US. He did his masters. He worked there for a few years, and he later came back to India after. So he joined about 10 years later to me. I think he joined somewhere in the 2005 or 2006, somewhere around that.
And there also we tried to use the skills or whatever learnings which we have got and try to diversify into whatever business that we are doing, one business here, because I always thought of it, children should be working and we should be able to multiply it rather than both the sons doing the same thing. And therefore, we did a lot of other research and tried to get into software business, and we tried to do things like that.
So with Praveet coming in, we had a great advantage that every diversification that we wanted to do, we would give it to him. That you have to champion this, and we did, succeed. We invested a lot of time, money in marketing some new technology. We spent time developing new lines of business, and we had, so 3 or 4 years he invested his time just trying to develop new businesses. And now he's even right now what he's doing as part of the family business is something away from the core that we have. But that is how, though it's part of the same family, but he is now handling new geographies, new expansions. Our partnership with some new principles is what he's managing. So with him coming in, I continued doing what was our core or what I took over as the lineage, but he has always come in with a fresh look and a fresh style, and he runs a different peripheral business which is giving us a lot of growth. So that has been a kind of an internal understanding that we have had.
Oh, wonderful, yeah, wonderful.
Ram, I would like to just add one thing. I
Please.
think which people should learn is when you become an entrepreneur, you generally are not equipped yourself to be a single person knowing everything. So you are also experimenting on various factors. But when you start a partnership company, you are always involved with your friends, someone whom you know well, whom you have confidence in, and you start working as a partner onto them. And requires a lot of maturity during those partnership days to also learn to live with your partners, with their decisions, we have faith in one another and things like that. You may have arguments, you may forget, and then take a call and decision jointly, whatever it may be. But the problem really, so when the friends are there, they give and take, and then they run the business and whatever it is there. Of course, sometimes that also breaks off. But otherwise, if you are all mature, 2 or 3 friends, you can run the business well. But the problem in any partnership starts when the second generation starts entering into the partnership. The son will not be able to work with his father, or even if he is able to work with his father, he may not be able to understand the business and work with the other partners. And now the other partner's son will also join the business. So there is going to be a lot of, and everyone is eating the same pie. So what happens, the pie portion reduces because obviously he will need salaries also. And that's where businesses break up. So if anyone starts a partnership company, they must always realize that you must give a growth path to whenever you start doing as partners to the children, so that independently they handle that business. So the partnership can remain all right. And if the partnership does not remain all right, then they should mutually agree and break up the partnership so that each individually can run properly. So this is one important learning which I've got, that in a partnership, you must know how to plan your entry of your second generation into the business. And they will not be able to work with the partners. The children will not be able to learn work with the partners of this thing, of the company. I think I'd like to share is this, that people should realize, and I've been teaching all my boys because I've been taking fresh engineers into my company. I would always tell people that your education is just your passport into your career or your business. Your learning curve is right throughout your life to learn new things, what is happening in industry. And today it is much more easier. At that time, it was a little difficult. But you must continue learning and educating yourself in the field that you are interested in. Because if you think that you have learned everything, then you're going to be a failure as fast as you get over there. So you have to be, even today, I keep myself technologically upgraded, keep learning new things, whatever is there. And I think that will help right throughout the life, even in the old age.
In fact, one thing that I want to say is that there is such perfect communication between the two of them. Sometimes they answered with the fiction also.
So Srini, with your permission, I'll put off the recording
Yeah.
so that we can then chat. Right.
Second thing is, thank you for talking to us.